Enough. Alright. So we are discussing about bleeding disorders, right? Alright. Then I just want to tell you one important term that I didn't discuss earlier. Yes. Epistaxis. You know what is the meaning of epistaxis? Epistaxis means bleeding from nose. Nose bleeding is called as epistaxis. Please write it down. Bleeding from nose is called as epistaxis. Okay. One of the common symptom for bleeding disorders is nose bleeding or simply epistaxis. When there is any issue with the bleeding condition in the body, maybe due to clotting factor deficiency, platelet problems, anything, the first thing we will see will be epistaxis. Okay? So, what is epistaxis? Even simple, when you sneezed, sneezing caused a hyper movement of head and you will start bleeding from the nose. That means these people are very fragile, likelihood to develop a nose bleeding for a simple mechanical injuries. Okay, so this condition is called as epistaxis. And few corrections in my yesterday's lecture. I did some mistakes. I think I discussed it here, right? So just tell me, students. So this is the blood vessel, damaged blood vessel, right? So the blood vessel damaged. Then what happened? Collagen fibers got exposed. Collagen fibers got exposed. Now this endothelial cell released 1 milligram factor, right? And this is collagen fibers. Collagen fibers. Now what happens? A platelet will attach to the 1 milligram factor. And there is one more clotting factor. What is it? Clotting factor 8. Okay, good. Now listen. This receptor is called as glycoprotein 1b. That is the mistake I did. This is 1b. In some textbooks it is 1a also. I just want to cross verify from this material. 1 second. See here, students, what they given 1b. GP1b is the correct receptor. I'm sorry, I did a small mistake. So this receptor is GP1b, glycoprotein 1b. Whereas the other receptor, and what this will secrete? Our platelet will secrete what? Serotonin. Very good. What is the role of serotonin? Serotonin will induce vasoconstriction. That is, the diameter of the blood vessel will decrease. Then parallelly this will also secrete platelet activating factor, and also it will secrete thromboxane A2. If you say one more thing, it will secrete, that is ADP, adenosine diphosphate. Even ADP can be secreted by platelet. See, multiple components has been secreted by the platelet. Okay. Now we will focus on thromboxane A2. Okay, I will enlarge the platelet here. This is an enlarged platelet. Okay, this platelet needs to produce thromboxane A2. Platelet will utilize a dietary component from the body. That diet is arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid. This arachidonic acid will be converted to thromboxane A2. Okay. Now listen. Yesterday I made a small mistake. I said platelet blockers. There are some drugs that will block the platelet receptors. Can you tell me one example of that drug? Aspirin. Aspirin. I will discuss about aspirin now. Aspirin won't block the receptors like GP1b or GP2b, 3a. Okay. Rather than aspirin will block the arachidonic acid synthesis. Aspirin will block the arachidonic acid conversion to thromboxane A2. Since there is no thromboxane A2, there won't be platelet aggregation. No aggregation, no primary platelet plug formation, increased bleeding time. Is it clear? Again clear? So now thromboxane A2 released. Now many platelets came to the site of injury. Now any two platelets will attach each other by a receptor called GP2B3A. GP glycoprotein 2B3A. Right? Now tell me students, absence of 1B leads to what condition? Yes? Bernard-Soulier syndrome. Bernard-Soulier syndrome. Whereas absence of GP2B3A results in Glasman's thrombocythemia. Then acquired bleeding disorder, we can say acquired. That means maybe I given aspirin to my patient, aspirin tablet to my patient. This aspirin blocked the arachidonic acid synthesis, leading to a increased bleeding time. Okay, in what conditions I might give aspirin? Might be during some clotting condition, during some ischemic heart attacks or some blood clotting conditions, I will give aspirin. So aspirin can be stated as an acquired bleeding disorder. Okay, since I induced bleeding, excessive bleeding in the patient. Okay, due to some other complication. That is what this diagram trying to state. Arachidonic acid will be converted to thromboxane A2 via aspirin. Aspirin will be converted further into COX. Okay, it's a redox reaction. You just remember aspirin blocks this one, right? Then we discussed about 2B3A receptor deficiency called as Glasman's, whereas 1B, GP1B deficiency will cause Bernard-Soulier syndrome. This is all about the platelet conditions. We will explore the other things in the coming lectures. Then other one is deficiency of 1 milligram factor itself will cause a condition called 1 milligram factor disease. That you know. Yesterday I made one more mistake. Listen. That is in hemophilia. What is hemophilia? Tell me, students. So excessive bleeding will happen in hemophilia. What is the reason for hemophilia? It might be absence of factor 8, absence of factor 9 or absence of factor 11. Factor 8 will be hemophilia A. Factor B will be 9B and 11C. Now tell me one thing. What will be the level? What will be the results of bleeding time and clotting time in hemophilia? What will be bleeding time in hemophilia? I rechecked the material. Actually, bleeding time will be either normal or slightly increased can be seen. Normal or slightly increased, but not highly elevated. Okay. But clotting time will drastically increase because these are clotting factors. These are clotting factors. Okay. So elevated bleeding time doesn't mean a hemophilia. It might affect or it may not affect. Okay. Now listen. If this is the case, I suspected a hemophilia patient, but his bleeding time is normal, clotting time increased. Then it might be a hemophilia. Then I will go for further test to identify any one of these disorder. That is one story. And second one, if this patient has an issue with the 1 milligram factor, if this patient has a problem with 1 milligram factor, then we will see increased BT and CT. In 1 milligram factor deficiency, both BT and CT will increase. Okay, why 1 milligram factor? Platelet not even attaching there. So obviously BT will increase, bleeding time will increase. Parallelly, why clotting time increase in 1 milligram factor deficiency? Because 1 milligram factor always combined with factor 8, if you remember. That is why factor 8 is also called anti-hemophilic factor. That is a bleeding condition again. Is it clear? Yeah. So far this is what we discussed for past 2 lectures. Okay. Then I need to add few more things to this topic. Now let me focus on hemophilia. Okay. So how hemophilia acquired? in order to understand the hemophilia, you should understand what is inheritance patterns. I want a plain slide. Yes. Now pay attention here. In order to understand hemophilia, I will write here directly. Hemophilia is called as genetically called as, it is called as X-linked recessive disorder. Can anyone say what is X-linked recessive disorder means? Very good. So that means I will show here. You need to know few terms. First of all, you should know what is the difference between dominant allele and recessive allele. I hope you know, right? What is dominant and recessive? Listen, in the humans, we have 23 chromosome pairs, totally 46. Listen, in case of recessive, one chromosome is good, one chromosome is bad, or bad gene. You will be a carrier. You will be carrier, but you won't get a disease. Whereas if it is a dominant allele, okay, presence of one bad gene is enough to get a disease. Presence of one bad gene is sufficient to get a disease. That means affecting. It will affect you if you have one problematic gene. Whereas in the recessive, problematic gene will be compensated by a good gene. So you will be a carrier. You are unaffected, but you will be a carrier to this bad gene. That is the concept of dominant and recessive. So this is clear. Then second concept you need to know, that is it an X-linked gene or an autosomal gene? Autosomal genes. So what is the difference between X-linked and autosomal? Listen, out of 23 pairs, 22 pairs, that means 44 chromosomes in the humans are vegetative chromosomes. That means they will code the normal cells of the body. Whereas they are called autosomal. 44 chromosomes are autosomal and 2 chromosomes are sexual chromosomes that determine our sex. It might be a X or we might be a Y. Now let us see some problems with X and Y. Let us assume the father has a problem on X. On X gene, there is a problem with the X gene. So this is a bad gene. Okay? And this is mother. Mother and father. Let us assume, I hope you know this Punnett test. So father X, bad gene X, and mother X. Yes, you can. So this is one condition. Then father X, bad gene X and mother's X. Then father's Y and mother's X. And father's Y and mother's X. Now let us see here. X, and X. X, Y, X. Wait. Yeah, actually Punnett square will be easy. Listen, in a nutshell, what I was trying to say is, the sons might be affected because son has only one X. Okay, son has only one X. Okay, and his X is a it is already a bad gene. So in X-linked conditions, if the in X-linked conditions, only the males will get affected. Males will be affected. Whereas females will be carriers. That is my concept. In X-linked recessive disorders, males will be affected always, whereas females will be always a carriers. Females won't get hemophilia, only males will get hemophilia. Is it clear? Because hemophilia is an X-linked recessive disorder. Okay? Fine. Yes. What if both parents are carriers? Yeah, there is 50-50% chance to get. Yes. Listen, in what condition a female will get a hemophilia? That is 25% when female carrying unfortunately two recessive genes. If female got two recessive genes, then female will get affected. But this concept is very rare. Okay, 25% chance of getting recessive to women. Okay, so 75% this is a affected are males and 25% will be females. Okay, there are good diagrams in online to know this concept. So yeah, now you understood what is hemophilia also. So there are father affected and mother affected conditions are there. Anyway, going back to the concept. Yes. Now you understood what is hemophilia. The only thing you need to memorize is hemophilia occurs because of these three, any one of these clotting factor deficiency. Males are affected, females are carriers, X-linked recessive. Is it clear? So there are some technical gene names. Those gene variations will cause these problems. Okay? If you try to memorize the gene name, even if you're not memorizing, fine. Okay? For at least for MST2 exam, you should memorize the genes. Clear, right? Yeah. Next, we will proceed to the next topic. I need whiteboard again. Yeah. The next topic will be coagulation disorders. This is just a repetitive lecture, I know, but yeah, in the next lecture I will discuss other things. I mean, next day. Yeah. Now pay attention. Coming to the clotting factors. Tell me the all 13 clotting factors to me. Yes, 13 clotting factors. Fibrinogen, prothrombin, tissue thromboplastin, calcium, labile. Then 7, stable. Then anti-hemophilic. Then Stewart-Coburn factor. Then 10, Christmas. Yeah, 9 is Christmas factor. Christmas factor and 10 Stewart-Coburn factor. Then 11, plasma, thromboplastin, antecedent. Then 12, Heitman factor. Then 13, fibrin, stabilizing factor. So you already know 13 clotting factors. Then the next one is coagulation mechanism. You already know this also, but still we will go with it. So listen carefully. If you get a blood vessel damage, what coagulation pathway will be initiated? Intrinsic pathway. Intrinsic pathway. Or I will say in a very cruel way, if you cut your veins, your intrinsic pathway will be initiated in the body. If you fall from the bicycle and you hurt near your knees where the skin has been damaged, then your extrinsic pathway will be initiated. Extrinsic pathway initiated by tissue damage, whereas intrinsic by, this blood vessel damage. Clear, right? So the purpose of these two pathways is to make an activator. What is that activator is called as? Prothrombin activator. Once we created prothrombin activator, this prothrombin will convert, this activator will convert prothrombin to thrombin, and thrombin will convert fibrinogen to fibrin. So our coagulation pathway has three phases: intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway, and common pathway. Now, can you tell me the factors involved in intrinsic, extrinsic, and common? Yeah. Just write down. So 12 will be converted to 12A. Then activated 12A will convert 11 to 11A. Then activated 11A will convert in the presence of calcium. 11A will convert 9 to 9A, and 9A will convert 10 to 10A, and this 10A will make the prothrombin activator. And there is a 10 to 10A conversion. There is an involvement of factor 8 plus calcium again. This is intrinsic pathway, whereas extrinsic pathway, whenever the tissue damage happens, phospholipids, glycoproteins plus phospholipids will get exposed, and these two will activate the factor 7. Okay, factor 7 will convert 10 to 10A, and 10A will be, creating the prothrombin activator. Yes. Plus calcium. Yes. Yes. Fibrinogen to fibrinogen factor number 13. Yes, sir. Yeah, that depends. Fibrin stabilizer. Okay. Yes. Yeah, 13. Yes, fibrin stabilizing factor. Fibrinogen to fibrin by thrombin. Thrombin will act as an activator to convert fibrinogen to fibrin. Then there will be other cycle, that is fibrinolysis, that we'll see later. So, prothrombin to thrombin, tissue thromboblast. Anyway, fibrinogen 1 to 1. Okay. So this is a coagulation pathway. Now listen, students. If you want to identify, now in my patient, he has one of the clotting factor missing. One of the clotting factor was deficient in my hemophilia patient. It can be a factor 8, 9 or 11, right? All these factors are present in intrinsic pathway. Okay, write down this shortcut diagram, everyone. Write down this diagram: 12, 11, 9, 10, 2, 1, then from 9, 7. Here you have 5, here you have 8. Yes. Write down this diagram, everyone. 7, 9, 10 to 1, 11, 12, 11, 9, 10 to 1. In between 11 and 9, 8, and 9 and 10, 5. Write down this diagram, everyone. Very important. Now listen very carefully. What about 9? Nothing. 5. Now listen very carefully. Some of these clotting factors are vitamin K dependent. Only with the help of vitamin K, some of these clotting factors will be synthesized. Some of these clotting factors are vitamin K dependent. And those vitamin K dependent factors are 7, 9, 10 to 1. Okay? 7, 9, okay, that is this one. 7, 9, 10 to 1 are vitamin K dependent clotting factors. 7, 9, 10 to 1 are vitamin K dependent clotting factors. Okay? Vitamin K can be removed with the help of a drug. What is that? Warfarin, not warfarin. Warfarin is an anesthetic, okay? Warfarin. Warfarin will remove vitamin K so that their blood won't clot. Is it clear? Vitamin K dependent clotting factors. Then, actually this is an extrinsic pathway. This is extrinsic pathway. This is intrinsic pathway. And this is common pathway. Intrinsic pathway, extrinsic, common and intrinsic pathway. Common pathway is 10 to 1. Okay? Now listen. Yes. Now listen. Extrinsic pathway. How you will detect extrinsic pathway? By what lab test? By what lab test you will detect extrinsic and common pathway disorders? Prothrombin time. Here. Prothrombin time will determine issues with extrinsic and common pathway. Extrinsic and common pathway issues can be detected by prothrombin time. Whereas intrinsic and common pathway disorders can be detected by activated partial thromboplastin type, APTT or APTTK. K stands for Kyolin. K-A-I-L-O-N, okay? Something Kyolin. I don't know spell it. Anyway, activated partial thromboplastin type. APTT will determine intrinsic and common pathway disorders, whereas extrinsic common pathway disorders can be detected by prothrombin type. Okay. Then the rate of conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. The rate of conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin will be detected by TT, thrombin time. And the overall efficiency of clotting can be detected by thrombin generation test. The thrombin generation test will determine the overall clotting mechanism status, whereas the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin by thrombin time, whereas extrinsic and common by prothrombin time, and intrinsic and common by activated partial thromboplastin time. Right? Now listen, my question is, it's detecting. My question is, what test you will opt to determine hemophilia out of them? What test you will opt, you will perform to identify a suspected hemophilia in the patient? TGT. First you will perform clotting time. Obviously clotting time will be elevated. First you need to start with the simplest test. Clotting time elevated, then we suspected it is a, you have performed the BT also, but BT came normal. That means this is not a 1 milligram factor, this might be issue with hemophilia only. We understood this might be hemophilia. Then what test you will perform? You will perform APTT first. Because our factor 8, 9 and 11 present in intrinsic pathway. That is 7. 7. So intrinsic pathway, right? So intrinsic and common issues will be determined by APTT. So APTT is a gold standard test. APTT is a gold standard test for detection of hemophilia in the patients. Okay, you understood that? So apart from this, there are other tests like prothrombin time and TGT and TT. So as per concerning with the hemophilia, we will go with the CT APTT to determine the status of hemophilia in the patient. Parallelly, differential diagnosis will be a specific test for 8 and 9 detection, and also yes, any more doubts? Yes. Yeah, hemostasis mechanism, coagulation mechanism. But we need to understand together for some diseases like hemophilia. Bleeding can happen in hemophilia, clotting can also happen. No clotting and excessive bleeding can be seen in hemophilia. That depends. So that's why we are evaluating. Right? Yeah. And there is one more thing, 1 milligram factor disease. Alright. I think this is sufficient for today. Please go through these topics again. Tomorrow we will go in even further depth. Yes. In case of hemophilia, bleeding time will be normal. In case of hemophilia, rest will be elevated. I suspect everything will elevate, but especially APTT will be highly elevated. PT, TGT, TT might be elevated or it might be normal because they are extrinsic pathways. Okay, I suspect PT will be normal. TGT, this will come normal students in hemophilia because they are intrinsic and common pathway, whereas our hemophilia clotting factors are in intrinsic pathway. Okay, any more doubts? Just go through that notes once. Alright, I think this is sufficient to you. So a quick revision of today's lecture. Today we discussed about again hemostasis, receptors. So you just tell me students, cetirizine, sorry not cetirizine, aspirin. How aspirin works? Sorry. Aspirin will block the arachidonic acid synthesis in the platelets, resulting in what will be the outcome of aspirin in platelet properties? Yeah, I connected with platelet properties. What property of the platelet will be inhibited by aspirin? Aggregation. Very good. So, what receptor is responsible for aggregation? Receptor responsible for aggregation. 2p3a. Absence of 2p3a results in Schwarzmann's thrombocythemia. Very good. And what is the other thing? What chemical responsible for aggregation? Serotonin. No, most appropriate chemical. Thromboxane. Thromboxane. What is the the common term of thromboxane PAF? Serotonin is called as thrombomodulin. Okay, very good. Thrombomodulin complex is the correct word. In a nutshell, they are also called as cytokines. Okay, cell messaging molecules. Cytokines or thrombomodulin complex also correct actually. Very good. That is keep studying after this lectures. Very good. Anyway, what is the medical term for nose bleeding? Epistaxis, right? Epistaxis. Very good. Then, what is the common symptoms for a prolonged bleeding time or bleeding in the patient? Common symptoms in bleeding in the patient? Yes. Nose bleeding, then? Easy pursuing. That means you will see, rashes on the skin. Very good. Then? Gum bleeding. Very good. Gum bleeding. Yeah. Purpura formation. Okay. Ecchymosis. Purpura formation is also called as ecchymosis. Yes. Excessive bleeding during menstruation. And any more else? What is this one? Hematorosis. What is hematorosis means? Bleeding in the gums, joints. Bleeding in the joints is called as hemothrasis. So these are some common symptoms about bleeding disorders in the patient. What will be the first lab test you will perform for bleeding conditions? Clotting type, bleeding type, then APTT, coagulation profile, that includes APTT. If these three tests came normal means what other tests you will perform? PT, TGT, their coagulation profile, then platelet function tests. You can opt for platelet function tests, okay? So there you will detect, there are some platelet function tests that I will discuss in the next lecture, okay? So there are some specific tests like adhesion test, aggregation test, clot retraction test, secretion test, and one more test is there that I will discuss. Okay. No more doubts, right, in this topic? Yes. What is the mode of action of warfarin? Warfarin mode of action. It will remove the vitamin K from the circulation. What is the mode of action of aspirin? Inhibits the arachidonic acid synthesis, okay? Through a chemical called COX, okay? But anyway, that is introduction. Okay, thank you very much, class. Yes.